Go. Yeah, when you talk. Hello, good morning. Perfect. Everything is perfect. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, here in Montreal, and also those who joined us online. Welcome to the press briefing of the European Union at COP15. My name is Ondřej Charvát, and I will be moderator of the today short briefing. Let me introduce our today's distinguished guests. Florika Finghuyer, Director General of the DG Environment, and Ladislav Miko, Head of the Czech Presidency Delegation and Special Envoy of the Czech Republic for Biodiversity Issues. Because our time is very limited, I just ask both of our guests to provide very short opening remarks, and there after them will be room for a question. Sorry. Florika, can you start, please?
Oui, bonjour, et je pense, je peux parler en français un peu, juste au début, puisqu'on est à Montréal. J'étais déjà introduit. Mon nom est Florika Finghuyer, je suis la directrice générale du département d'environnement de la Commission européenne. Et nous avons suivi, bien entendu, ensemble avec la présidence depuis très longtemps, toutes les délibérations. Et moi-même, je suis arrivée samedi. Et j'ai eu le temps de faire le tour de table avec mes collègues, avec les membres de l'Union européenne et avec la présidence. Et je vais maintenant un peu partager mes premières impressions, parce que c'est vraiment très réduite, faut le dire, puisque les délibérations ont lieu maintenant, donc c'est un peu limité. Mais néanmoins, ce que j'étais assez rassurée aussi quand j'ai parlé avec les chairs chinois, mais aussi avec le CBD Secretariat et aussi avec le host canadien. En fait, il y a du mouvement. En fait, les gens sont là pour vraiment s'engager, pour discuter. Je sais que c'est pas par pas et c'est pas facile. Tout le monde doit vraiment faire des compromis. Mais ce qui compte, il y a quand même un esprit très constructif que j'entends. Bien entendu, tout le monde a ses positions, comme nous, mais ça avance. Et si vous regardez, il y a quand même pas mal de textes qui étaient un peu maintenant finalisés un peu. Donc ça nous donne l'espoir. Ça c'est parfait, parce qu'en fait, il faut dire, avant que les ministres arrivent, avant jeudi, on a quand même pas mal de temps maintenant aussi de faire le travail technique. Bon, technique, c'est pas toujours technique, mais quand même d'avancer. Et je pense qu'on est en train de le faire. L'Union européenne est là aussi pour écouter. Je pense qu'il y a un peu la vérité dans les deux camps. On a eu des ambitions assez hautes. On les tient, mais en même temps, il faut avoir aussi des résultats, surtout les targets qui sont ambitieux, mais aussi raisonnables et implémentables. Donc, ils peuvent être mis en œuvre. Et je pense là, on trouve des solutions. I think we need a deal that everybody can rally behind and be proud of. Because the 2 years have been lost now we have basically the last 8 days now in order to make it. And I think we will do all it can. And we have to work in partnership, but we also have to be science-based, right? That's very important. Let me perhaps say one word from the start, because that's the elephant in the room for everybody, resource mobilization, right? And since I come, everybody's talking about that. And there is a balance between, yes, ambitious goals and targets, monitoring, and resource mobilization. And it's logic. I mean, there should be a balance, but it's not only one, it's both, or three together. I think we also have to say that we are very open to this idea. Yes, we do need more money. Of course, biodiversity has been neglected in the past. We have to put a much bigger focus on it. And of course, that requires money and capacity building and everything. But having said this, I think this call, especially from developing countries for more finance, yes, it is legitimate. But now we have to look at how do we achieve it. And as I said, there's also balancing to what we then will agree as targets and goals in order to go ahead. I think it's fair to say that the Commission, the European Union with its member states, we have been very reliable donor. We are the biggest donor. We will be continuing to be a reliable, predictable donor. And that amount, its ODA, is extremely important, but it will never do the trick. It's not enough for the challenge that we as a planet face. So let's put that also in balance. But we have already announced doubling of the doubling. So I think we are clear that we want to go ahead. But we need all sources of finance. Public, very important. And as I said, ODA stays not only stable, it is increasing and it's reliable. It will be there, it will also be there in the future, but we need very much other sorts of public finance, also other donors who can chip in, the private sector, the philanthropists, because that's where the big money and the potential is. I just want to conclude because you will have questions on the details. The details probably is better to be answered by my colleague because the presidency, the Czech presidency, doing a marvelous job here on the spot as well in rallying our position and making clear what the position of the Union and the member states are. But let me just reiterate: we are listening, we are responding, and I hope everybody else does the same. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And now, Ladislav, can you add something?
Thank you, and thank you, Florica. And I have to say that we feel stronger to have, the additional new important people in team, and we have to confirm that the cooperation with Commission, European Commission, is crucial, important, and well going. So this is important. Let me to comment shortly after the meeting we had several days ago, how we see the situation at this moment. We are few days before ministerial segment. We do believe that the crucial thing is that we leave for ministerial segment the just several main most important political issues to discuss, and that implies that we should make progress on the other issues as far as we are able before ministerial segment starts. Obviously, it will be still technical discussions ongoing in parallel with ministerial, but I think that the significant progress before it starts is a crucial thing. It is difficult to judge or to state truly, how to evaluate the progress that we are making in some of the issues in that phase of discussions. But still, we feel encouraged by the clear progress which was made. We have seen this in the stock-taking plenary on Saturday, but we also see the progress in some very important files like monitoring framework, planning and reporting review. I mean, there is a movement which is encouraging, and we do believe we can speed up that movement in the sense, as I said, to be ready for political segment with as clean agenda as possible. Obviously, European Union remains fully committed to ensure the success of this COP with all the main goals, ambitious, transformative outcome, which will finally start to effectively reach what we want to reach already several decades. I was telling already last time, it's not the first time we are speaking about the whole thing, the biodiversity loss. But I don't really think we will have many other options to do so. So we really need now something what will deliver. And that means clear targets, clear way of implementation, clear indicators how to measure progress, and clear financing secured that we can do all of that together globally. So when we are asked about that, I repeat, but Florica said it already very clearly, that we don't see the things isolated. They are interconnected clearly, and it's true that you cannot do the ambitious work without capacity and resources necessary, but at the same time, it is difficult to have the capacity and financial framework built without having a clear ambition in targets. I would repeat because I have got or I heard some comments that there are some doubts about that, so probably I have to reiterate Europe is certainly behind the 30 target, and I mean there is no doubt about that. At the same time, we also see as a very important element of the overall ambition to have a restoration target, which would be ideally numerical. There is a concrete proposal of EU, but there is a space for discussion. But nevertheless, we need to have a clear indication of the willingness of substantial restoration efforts, because that's whatever you say, even if you say 30 by 30 is ensured, you have 70% of other land where biodiversity needs to be doing better as well. So restoration is a key to that. Obviously, the overall level of ambition must be aligned with the vision for 2050, which means we have to have in the midterm 2030 a very clear position in order to be able to reach what we have for 2050, which is actually halting and reversing the biodiversity loss. That means that we also have to be very serious about addressing the direct drivers of the biodiversity loss. And this is why we are speaking about issues like pollution, like reducing the risks of the pesticide use. But it's also about mainstreaming, which is much broader because all these goals, they cannot be done just by, let's say, environmental community. This is cross-cutting issue. And the mainstreaming is crucial in order to be able to address that. So it is also issue of many, many other sectors. And here again, there is a discussion about reduction of harmful subsidies, which is a double win because first, I mean, you can address one of the important drivers, but second, you can remobilize the money. I mean, we are not speaking about getting subsidies away. We are speaking about repurposing them in a way that they will be not harmful but supportive to biodiversity. And this is, I would say, big chunk of money, which is actually here, but at the moment, it is pushing to the other end. We need this to be improved. So I know that these goals are very ambitious, but I would like to confirm that this is an ambition of the European representation here. And we are also ready, as I said, and I stress again, to discuss about how to mobilize necessary funds. But it is not only about money. It is also about accessibility. It is also about making the existing sources easier approachable for those who need it. And it is also very importantly about building the capacity, not only in terms of money, but also in terms of capacity as such, expertise, all what you need in order to be able to proceed. So with that, I will finish now, and I'm looking forward for questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. Ladislav, please, the first gentleman, the first row. Yeah.
Patrick Greenfield from the Guardian newspaper. We've not heard much at all from the presidency on their plans for the final week of COP or the final few days. When should we expect ministerials to start seriously? Is it going to be Thursday, Friday? That seems very late. Are you happy with that schedule? There's a huge amount to do.
First of all, I don't want to announce the things which should be announced by presidency, but I will say what is our understanding, okay? Ministers will arrive on 14th and start to discuss on 15th. We will have 2 or 3 days of discussions. While, I mean, I heard many indications that several, even quite many ministers may want to stay even longer if needed. But this is the presidency job. Nevertheless, I fully agree with you that at the moment the agenda is too heavy for ministerial. So, I mean, we need to use the remaining 3 days we have in order to change that. So, I mean, our thinking and our consideration of the situation is now we need to move dramatically forward and distill the political issues for the political discussion and not spoil it with millions of the technical details. So, I mean, if this is the answer I can give you. For that, obviously, you need to see and feel the same willingness also around the house. It's not only one party or I mean, as I usually say very clearly, one party representing 27, which is the European Union.
Yes, please. The gentleman. Yeah, thank you very much. Please, okay. And yes, please. And after them, the gentleman in the first row again.
Hi, Orla Dwyer from Carbon Brief. I just have a quick question on finance, as you obviously discussed a lot of it there. How flexible would you say the EU is willing to be on finance, or our current commitments as far as it is prepared to go?
I think I can take that immediately because I tried to already outline a little bit that we are very much aware, and I think it is very legitimate by the South to say we need, because in the South there's more of a biodiversity, and therefore the biodiversity could be lost, more there, to say we need money, and we need more money than it is now on the table. So I think it's a legitimate question. The question is, how do we reach that? And let me really reiterate, the EU and its member states is by far the biggest donor. And it will continue to be a very reliable, very predictable ODA donor. But if you look at the magnitude of the challenge, it is absolutely clear that we need other sources of financing to kick in. ODA will not do the trick. It's never commensurate to the challenge. So let's take that, what we have, which is a very stable and actually increasing amount. We already said we doubled the double, and several member states already now have made pledges, important pledges, really big pledges. But look at where can we tap the money that is needed. And that is domestic financing, because we need ownership, let's face it. Everybody can chip in, potentially tiny there, bigger others. That's clear. We can't all be contributing the same way. But the ownership and the domestic financing, because it's domestic drivers, it's domestic responsibilities, is also there. But then the big potential, the scaling up, is very much with the multilateral banks, the philanthropists, and also the private sector. Private sector actually sees a lot of potential in going into biodiversity. Half of the global GDP is depending on nature. So of course there is a business case also to make for investors. The question is, how do we scale that up? How do we leverage that in order to reach a target or an amount that is important? But I would really caution on thinking ODA is a solution. No, that is not. But we are very, very open and to hear and to listen to different ways of leveraging that finance needs up. I hope that's clarifying. And please.
If I may, just one sentence to add, because sometimes the discussion is slightly maybe shifted from the overall understanding is that the ambition we are speaking about is ambition for the global environment. This includes developed countries, and they will have to invest more into nature conservation as well, and significantly more. So, I mean, you have to factor in this when we are speaking about the sourcing and when we speak, for example, about the domestic contributions, because this must be part of the equation. We not only speak on the targets of ODA. This is a very highly important part, but it's not the only thing we need to finance. And when we speak about 200 billions, for example, this is including the share in the developed world as well. So, I mean, just to make that very clear, that we also need money, finance capacity, etc., for that work. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin O'Sullivan from the Irish Times. I have two quick questions. One is, at COP27, there was a sense that the talks were drifting a lot and rather aimless. And I think some people would argue that this is where we are at here now at COP15. And in Egypt, the EU made an intervention in the final days, which I think helped concentrate minds. Is the EU considering such a move now, given where we're at? And secondly, could I ask, what kind of restoration targets do you have in mind when you refer to restoration targets? Thank you.
I think my colleague already said it. We should not prejudge the dynamics of the discussions. But on the contrary, what was, I think, asked also by the colleague from The Guardian was, we have now a possibility to achieve progress. And I personally don't like very much this comparison. I mean, every negotiation has its own merits and its own dynamics. And it would be a bit short to say, oh, we done it here, so we have to done things there. There are other things that perhaps we should not wanted to have done in that way at COP27. So I think this is missing basically the dynamics that we're having here. And I'm encouraged by seeing that so many colleagues, and I mean colleagues from all developing and developed countries, they all actually want to make progress also before ministers comes. And this is where we focus on now, really make progress on the goals and targets and everything. And then we know there are a few things left, and that will be left for ministerial discussion.
And I add my obvious sentence. Completely subscribing what was said, but I also want to say that we see the movement and we see the acceleration. And I have to say, I'm very happy about what we see in the approach of the co-chairs. I mean, they are getting really tougher, and that means they are also moving faster forward, and this is what we welcome. So, I mean, this is giving us hopes that we can manage what I was saying at the beginning, that we will be able to clean up for the ministerial.
Yeah, one last question, please.
Hi, Jack Graham, Thomson Reuters Foundation. I was wondering, along with the requests for more cash from developing nations, there's a discussion around which vehicles that cash goes through. I was wondering how open you are to the idea of a new facility being created along with the Global Environment Facility.
This is still broadly discussed. We are looking on all kind of options. I think if we will be able to reach the general agreement on the sourcing overall, then you can answer that question via which means this is the most efficient. But I think what is crystallizing what we feel here is that we have actually basically two steps or two goals in mind. One is mobilizing the finances as soon as possible in order to be able to support what we agree here as a approach towards 2030. You don't have time to wait 5-6 years, with an instrument in order to be able to finance that. So probably this is about looking on existing, let's say, mechanisms and making them more accessible, simpler, etc., etc. But you also have the overall need for the long term, where you need to look on, the higher financial flows and what will be the most efficient way how to implement them. And again, I repeat, it would be not a good result to have something formally agreed which will not deliver its function. So, I mean, we are really caring about the fact that at the end, we want to hear those who need the most the financing for biodiversity, that they can access it. I mean, this is the leading principle.
Thank you very much. We are out of our time, so thank you very much and have a good day.